Okay, picture this. You've got a scientist really digging in the dirt, sleeves rolled up, looking for these tiny microscopic helpers.
Helpers that could actually, change a whole country's farming future.
Exactly. And now that same scientist is getting this huge honor, the World Food Prize. People call it the Nobel Prize for Agriculture, right?
Yeah, it's a massive deal. And the story behind the 2025 winner, Dr. Mariangela Hungria from Brazil, it's fascinating. It's all about her work with soil bacteria.
Right. And that's what we're going to dive deep into today. We want to unpack how her research, spanning decades really, didn't just boost Brazil's crops, especially soybeans, making them a global food giant.
But also pave the way for, well, much more sustainable ways of farming.
For sure. We've pulled together info from places like Newser, the World Food Prize site, DD India, their newsroom, NPR, OPP, trying to get you the core insights from all of them.
Yeah, and for you listening, if you want to get a solid handle on something important quickly, this is a perfect example, how deep science can lead to these huge real-world impacts. We're going to try and cut through to why her work is so crucial, for feeding the world and for the planet.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. Where did this passion come from for Dr. Hungria? What sparked it?
It seems like it started really early. Apparently, her grandmother was a science teacher. She described her as magical and got her interested in soil, plants, that whole world, really sparked her curiosity.
Oh, okay.
And then when she was just 8, she read this book, Microbe Hunters. And that was it. She was hooked on the lives of these scientists studying tiny things, knew right then she wanted to work on, the connection between soil and plants.
Wow, 8 years old. That's amazing how those early things stick.
Isn't it?
But it wasn't exactly an easy path for her, was it? I gather there was a lot of skepticism early on.
Oh, definitely. You have to remember, this was back in the 70s, early 80s. Agriculture then was all about the Green Revolution.
Right, Norman Borlaug, high-yield seeds, chemical fertilizer.
Exactly. That was the main playbook. So when Dr. Hungria came along talking about biological solutions, using microbes instead of chemicals, well, a lot of people just didn't buy it. They thought it wasn't practical,
Yeah, that takes real guts to go against the grain like that.
Yeah.
Especially within a major institution, right? She was at EMBRAPA.
That's right. Her whole career pretty much was at the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, EMBRAPA. And that place itself was key in turning Brazil from a food importer into the agricultural powerhouse it is now. So she had the backing, the resources there to pursue this different path.
Okay, and she wasn't completely alone in thinking this way early on. There was a mentor figure.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Johanna de Breiner. A real pioneer herself in using microbes in tropical farming. She mentored Dr. Hungria during her PhD and really influenced her early thinking. That guidance was pretty critical.
It's amazing how important those relationships are. Even though she faced doubts in Brazil, she also looked internationally for experience.
She did. That's a really important point. She did postdoctoral work in the U.S. at Cornell and UC Davis.
Oh, wow. Top places.
Yeah, so she got that advanced training, built connections, stayed right at the cutting edge of the science.
But she came back to Brazil. Why was that? What drove her to bring that knowledge home?
Well, her heart was always set on tackling Brazil's specific challenges. She saw this huge potential for soil microbes right there in her own country. Even meant starting up a new lab basically from scratch at EMBRAPA's Soybean Center. She just kept at it, proving how vital these tiny organisms were. Her persistence, it really paid off.
And that brings us neatly to the soybeans, doesn't it? The soybean revolution. What was the basic problem she was trying to fix there?
The big issue is nitrogen. Soybeans, they need a lot of nitrogen to grow well and produce high yields.
Okay.
And Brazil was relying on imported chemical nitrogen fertilizer. That was, well, first, really expensive for farmers, and second, not great for sustainability relying on imports like that.
Right, cost and environment. So she looked to nature's own solution, biological nitrogen fixation. How does that work, especially with her soybean research?
Okay, so biological nitrogen fixation, it's basically this natural process where certain microbes can grab nitrogen gas right out of the air, which plants can't use directly, and turn it into a form plants can absorb through their roots.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Hungria zeroed in on rhizobia. These are specific bacteria that team up with legumes, like soybeans. They move into the roots and form these little bumps called nodules.
Nodules, okay.
Yeah, think of them like tiny natural fertilizer factories right there on the roots. The bacteria take nitrogen from the air, feed it to the plant, and the plant gives the bacteria energy in return. It's a partnership.
A neat little symbiosis.
Yeah.
And her big breakthrough was finding the best strains of these rhizobia.
Exactly. She spent years isolating and testing countless strains, really digging down to find the ones that were super efficient nitrogen fixers and helped soybeans thrive specifically in Brazilian soil and climate conditions. That led to identifying these elite strains.
And how did farmers actually get these elite strains onto their crops?
Through something called seed inoculation. It's pretty straightforward, actually. You coat the soybean seeds with these selected rhizobia strains just before planting.
So the bacteria are right there from the start.
Precisely. Ready to go to work as soon as the roots start growing, setting up those nitrogen factories immediately.
And the impact. We hear about Brazil's soybean boom. How much of that is down to this?
It's huge. I mean, back in the 80s, Brazil was producing maybe 15 million metric tons of soy. Now, it's over 170 million tons a year.
Wow.
And they're the world's #1 producer and exporter. Dr. Hungria's work with rhizobia inoculation was absolutely fundamental to that transformation. It's hard to overstate it.
And for the farmers themselves, what did it mean for their bottom line?
Massive savings. Because they didn't need nearly as much expensive synthetic nitrogen, estimates are they saved something like $25 billion a year collectively.
Billion with a B.
Yep. And for an individual farmer, think about it. Maybe spending just $2 or $3 per hectare on the bacteria inoculant versus $30, $40, even $50 per hectare for the synthetic stuff. Huge difference in profitability.
Makes sense why it would catch on. And it really has, right? This isn't just some niche thing.
Not at all. It's standard practice now. Used on about 85% of Brazil's soybean area every year. That's over 30 million hectares. It's actually the highest adoption rate for this kind of biotech anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Shows how well it works and how much farmers trust it.
And I read something about reinoculation being key. Just doing it once wasn't enough.
Yeah, her research really hammered that home. You get the best, most consistent results by reinoculating the seeds every single growing season.
Yep.
That ensures you've always got a strong population of those top-performing rhizobia right where they need to be, and doing that consistently gave about an 8% yield bump over just using chemical nitrogen.
So after this incredible success with soybeans, I guess farmers started asking, hey, can you do this for my corn, my wheat?
That's exactly what happened. There was clear demand. So Dr. Hungria broadened her research focus to non-legume crops. That led her to another important bacterium, Azospirillum brazilans.
Azospirillum. Okay, what does that one do differently?
Well, Azospirillum does fix a bit of nitrogen, but its main superpower is producing plant growth hormones.
Hormones. Like for humans.
Sort of, but for plants. These hormones really stimulate root growth. Bigger roots mean the plant can explore more soil, grab more water, more nutrients. Very helpful for crops like corn and wheat.
And again, she turned the science into a practical tool for farmers.
Absolutely. Her team developed the first commercial strains of Azospirillum formulated as inoculants for maize, wheat, rice. Now, those are used on, I think, over 14 million hectares of corn alone in Brazil.
That's huge, too.
And get this, she also led the charge on developing the first inoculant for grass pastures, helping make cattle farming more efficient on the land they already have.
So she's building this whole microbial toolkit. First rhizobia for legumes, then azospirillum for cereals and grasses. And then she thought about putting them together, this co-inoculation idea.
Exactly. That was the next really innovative step. What happens if we use the nitrogen-fixing rhizobia and the growth-promoting azospirillum at the same time, looking for synergy?
Like a 1-2 punch for the plant.
Kind of, and the results were pretty stunning. Using both together essentially doubled the yield increase they saw in soybeans and common beans compared to just using rhizobia alone.
Doubled. Wow.
Yeah. Plus, you got even better root development, better water and nutrient uptake, and the plants handled drought better, too. It's like the two bacteria working together gave this complete plant health package.
And she didn't just see this in the lab, right? She tested it out in the real world with actual farmers.
Critically important, yes.
Yeah.
She ran these extensive field trials, involved over 3,000 smallholder farmers over 5 years.
3,000. That's a serious validation.
It really is. And it confirmed that co-inoculation worked under real farming conditions, consistently boosting yields and, importantly, adding about an extra $111 per hectare to the farmer's profits each season.
And presumably there are environmental benefits to this combo approach too.
Definitely. Because you're making the plants even more efficient and further reducing the need for synthetic nitrogen, they estimate co-inoculation cuts down CO2 equivalent emissions by about 350 kilograms per hectare.
Which adds up fast when you scale it across millions of hectares.
Exactly. Big cumulative impact.
So is this co-inoculation catching on widely as well?
It is. Adoption's growing strong. They sell over 70 million doses of these combined inoculants annually in Brazil now. It's used on roughly 35% of the soybean area, maybe 16 million hectares or so.
It really feels like, through all this, Dr. Hungria had a guiding philosophy. It wasn't just about yields.
Absolutely. She's always been a huge advocate for sustainable agriculture. She talked about a microgreen revolution long before it was trendy.
Microgreen revolution. I like that.
Yeah, boosting productivity while being environmentally responsible. That was her vision, even when everyone else was focused purely on chemicals and maximizing output at any cost.
And the environmental numbers really back that up, don't they?
They really do. Just preventing an estimated 230 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent emissions in Brazil from her work alone, that's massive. It speaks directly to what the world needs now: sustainable food systems, less pollution, lower emissions.
And her work isn't stopping, is it? I heard she's looking at degraded land now.
That's right. A big focus for her now is using her microbial expertise to help restore degraded pasture land. Thinking about regenerative agriculture, eco-innovation, that whole One Health idea connecting human, animal, and environmental health.
Which brings us back to the World Food Prize, this huge recognition for a lifetime of this kind of work.
Yeah, the 2025 prize, it really is the top honor in agriculture, globally significant.
And there's a significant monetary award, too.
There is $500,000. And she's already said she plans to use it to set up another award specifically to recognize women making contributions in agriculture.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Paying it forward.
Really is.
And this isn't her first major award, is it? She's been recognized quite a bit over the years.
Oh, yeah, a whole string of them. The TWS Lenovo Science Award, Commander of the National Order of Scientific Merit in Brazil. She's in the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, the World Academy of Sciences. First woman president of the Brazilian Society of Soil Science. Stanford consistently ranks her in the top 1% of agricultural scientists.
Wow, quite the resume. And beyond the science, it sounds like she's been a real mentor and role model, too.
Absolutely. She supervised over 200 students, mostly women, at the State University of Londrina, helping launch their careers. And she's been really open about her own life, being a young mother, having a child with special needs, showing that you can navigate those challenges and still succeed in science, trying to inspire confidence.
I even saw her work being compared to Norman Borlaug's, calling hers a micro-green revolution. That's high praise.
It really is. It positions her work as building on the Green Revolution's success, but shifting the focus to these sustainable microbial solutions that are so needed today.
And we'll get to hear more from her directly later this year?
Yep. She'll give her laureate address at the World Food Prize ceremony in October. No doubt that will be incredibly insightful, hearing about her journey and her vision for the future of farming.
So just to wrap this incredible story up, Dr. Hungria's work, this decades-long focus on soil bacteria, it hasn't just made Brazil a farming giant, especially in soy.
It's also given farmers a cheaper, greener alternative to chemical fertilizers, a huge win-win.
The real aha moment here, for me anyway, is just how powerful understanding that hidden world under our feet can be.
Totally. That this focused scientific work, seemingly just looking at microbes and dirt, could have such massive ripples for an economy, for food security, for the environment. It's profound.
Which leaves us with the thought for you, our listener. Given how successful this biological approach has been in Brazil, what are the real possibilities and maybe the hurdles to doing this elsewhere? For different crops, different climates, what would it actually take in terms of research, policy, farmer buy-in to spark a truly global microgreen revolution like the one Dr. Hungria started? Something to think about.